because I did not actually supervise Mr. Beckham because I was on maternity leave.
But there, to your knowledge, there was a probation agent in Wayne County who was assigned to supervise Mr. Beckham?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And did that probation agent alert you or your office as to a violation of his probation?
Yes, they did.
And what did you exactly learn?
That he had moved and they were unable to locate him. It appears that, I can tell you the exact date here. On January 3rd, 2020, they went to his apartment to try to locate him, and he no longer lived there. The apartment was vacant. The blinds are wide open. There was no furniture. That agent still left notice there for, the offender to make contact with us in case he returned to the residence. She also tried to call him on the phone, but his phone number was disconnected. So we weren't able to make any contact with him, and he did not make any attempts to contact that agent. So as a result, a bench warrant was issued for being unable to locate.
And so this was back in January. So the bench warrant was issued when?
Screens. Oops. Date on it because the hard copy's in the office. Just a second.
Well, I can take judicial notice that it was issued on January 10, which was the date that I signed it.
Thank you, Your Honor. So after January 10th, 2020, did the agent continue to attempt to make contacts with the defendant?
No, it looks like the last time we attempted to contact him would have been the Detroit agent on actually the 10th. He went to, it looks like, the offender's mother's address to try to contact him there and hope she could find him, and he wasn't there either.
And once the bench warrant was issued, are you aware of when he was actually located or picked up on that bench warrant?
He was picked up on September 9th of 2020.
So to your knowledge, between January 10th and September 9th, did the defendant have any contact with his probation agent?
He did contact me a couple months ago, wanting to know what he could do to resolve the warrant. I informed him that he needed to turn himself in to the Ingham County Jail, and then we could have a bench warrant arraignment and, move forward. He stated that he absconded because he had COVID. He then stated he couldn't go to jail because he had COVID. I asked him if he'd been tested. He said that he hadn't. I asked him if he would go get a test and give me the results. If he was positive for COVID, I didn't want him to turn himself in and potentially expose other inmates. So I asked him to get a test, and if that result was negative, I would like him to turn himself in, so that way we could address this. I did not hear from him after that phone call, so I do not know if he ever was tested or if he wasn't.
But to follow up, I guess, from January of 2020, when he was supposed to contact his agent within 24 hours, it was well beyond 24 hours that he did not contact his agent to update as to a change of residence.
Oh, yes, that's correct.
Okay. It wasn't like he was just a few hours late. It was months later before.
Months later, yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Actually, that contact, did it occur in May where he said he had COVID?
That sounds accurate, yes. I heard he also contacted the court stating the same thing, so.
Yes, I wanted to confirm that was at the same time or around the same time.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Austin?
Good afternoon, Agent Mills.
Good afternoon.
So, as I understand this, Mr. Beckham was primarily being supervised by an agent in Wayne County, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you cannot recall this particular agent's name?
I cannot know. Like I said, I was on maternity leave during this time.
And as far as whether Mr. Beckham was keeping in compliance with his probation terms and conditions, you're relying on information from that agent. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And prior to these discussions you were talking about from January, where they were attempting to locate Mr. Beckham, had you been in contact with this particular agent prior to that?
I did not. He was not assigned to me prior to that. He was actually just moved to my caseload when I returned from maternity leave as an absconder. So I've had very little contact with him. It looks like he was supervised by an agent in Ingham County named Marcus Turner. It looks like the last contact that he had with the agent in Wade County would have been in November of 19, so 2 months before this incident, when he asked for an extension of his probation due to payments.
And you said Mr. Beckham contacted you sometime in May, that was correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you know from any of your discussions whether Mr. Beckham had contact with his agent in Wayne County in December regarding a change of residence?
Not to my knowledge.
And these discussions you were having with the probation agent in January on attempting to locate Mr. Beckham, were these discussions through email, on the phone? Was there some type of report generated?
It looks like that agent had sent an email over to Agent Ed McQuillan, letting him know of his efforts to locate in those unsuccessful efforts. He also put case notes in our system where he details those efforts that were made. And then ultimately, Agent Ed McQuillan made the request for the bench warrant.
And what time period was this?
He looks like the bench warrant was signed on January 10th, 2020. It looks like the bench warrant was requested on, it looks like January 10th also. It said that he
Thank you.
received an email from Wayne County who stated that he couldn't find him, and then the bench warrant was issued that same day.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Ms. Allen, redirect?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Mills, and that concludes your testimony. Any other witnesses for the people?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, for you, Mr. Austin?
We call Mr. Beckham, Your Honor.
Yep, Mr. Beckham, you can probably stay right where you're at. If your attorney would merely slide the microphone down, because we record here, so we'll need that closer to you. I guess that's got a short cord on it, doesn't it?
As long as I can get it straight.
Okay, well, I'll ask you to speak nice and loud, Mr. Beckham. Ah, there you go, that's much better. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Austin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Beckham.
How you doing?
State your name, spell your last name for the record, please.
James Anthony Beckham, B-E-C-K-O-M.
And are you familiar with the terms and conditions and what's expected of you while on probation?
Yes,
And is one of those terms and conditions to notify your agent of any change of address or residency?
yes,
And to your understanding, were you supposed to report that to an agent you were being supervised in Wayne County or an agent here?
Wayne County.
Okay. And who were you reporting to in Wayne County?
Agent Curry. I don't know her first name, but
It was Agent Curry?
yeah,
And is that who you regularly saw?
yes. The person here I never really spoke to the man that they speaking of.
And the person here, who are you referring to?
The man she was speaking of that
Mr. McQuillan?
Yeah, I never spoke to him.
But your agent in Wayne County, did there come a period of time when you moved or changed your address? And if so, when did that happen?
Yes, December 2nd, 2019. That's the day I lost my job. As soon as I got the phone, my supervisor, I called Agent Curry and I told her that I lost my job, and she said, "Oh no, what are you going to do?" And I told her, "I don't know. I'm gonna have to move from here to an apartment. I'm gonna have to move with my mom." Gave her the address in Taylor, 15457 South Pleasant Drive, and I told her I had to move. And the reason why they couldn't contact me about my phone, I had to sell my phone. I didn't have no money, so.
But did you give your agent the complete address of where
Yes.
you were going to be moving to?
Yes,
And,
within 2 seconds of me being fired.
okay. So would that have been within 24 hours or less than 24 hours?
Yes,
And as you understood it, did that put you in compliance with what was ordered of you while on probation?
yes,
You said that was in December?
yes.
And did you ever contact anyone here or anyone from the probation department here?
No,
But was it your understanding you were supposed to report that change to your agent in Wayne County or your agent here?
Wayne County. I was never supposed to contact. I was never told to contact anybody here. I was only supposed to report to her.
After you notified Agent Curry of your change in address, did Agent Curry tell you to do anything else regarding that change of address?
She told me not to come in to report in December because they was doing construction on the building. And she told me to come in January. I seen her January 17th.
Thank you, Mr. Beckham. That's all the questions I have.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you. Judge, do you prefer me to go to the podium or stand?
Probably the podium works better.
So, Mr. Beckham, we agree part of your probation requirement is to contact your agent and report a change of residence within 24 hours, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And so it's your testimony that in December of 2019, you did move.
yes.
And did you move from an apartment?
Yeah, I moved from Lakeview Boulevard address to the South Pleasant Drive address.
And you said that's your mother's address?
Yes,
And you've heard testimony today that the agent went to look for you at your mother's house, correct?
yes.
Were you aware that that happened?
No, because if they did, they would have gotten that day. I've been there ever since.
Okay. And so from what I recall, the agent testified that they actually made contact with your mother. So you had at that residence. If that's true, would your mother have agreed you were living there and told the agent that?
Yes,
Okay. Once the agent went to your house, where you said where you were living with your mother, you knew that your agent was looking for you then, right?
no, I didn't. You're right. They said January 3rd is when they came to look for me. I didn't know everything. Because I seen my probation officer January 17th. She didn't tell me nothing about that.
So it's your testimony that your agent informed Ingham County that they could not locate you back, and there's a bench warrant for you on January 10th, 2020, but you saw your agent on January 17th, 2020?
Yes,
That's your testimony, okay. And what about since January 17th, 2020?
I did see her in February. That's when I got sick.
You got sick with what?
My asthma.
Okay, so did you see her in March?
No,
Or April?
no,
May?
no. That's I contacted her around that time. She told me that they transferred my case back up here, and that's when I contacted Ms. Mills.
So you didn't have contact with your agent from January 17, 2020 until you called here in May of 2020, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Were there reporting requirements in the meantime that you were supposed to be having?
Yes, I was supposed to report.
Monthly?
Yeah,
Okay. So if the agent had said your current whereabouts were unknown, since you weren't reporting, it seems like it's possible she couldn't find you, correct?
how come if I was still at the same address?
But if you're supposed to be reporting, you know that when you're on probation, those are things you have to do, right?
Yes.
And you have to report, right?
Yes,
So if you're not reporting and she says your whereabouts are unknown, that would kind of make sense, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, I have no further questions.
All right, any redirect, Mr. Austin?
Briefly, Your Honor, yes. So, Mr. Beckham, during the first part of this year, were you aware that your probation agent was looking for you or did not know your whereabouts?
No,
If you had known that, what would you have done?
I would turn myself in.
And you said you had monthly reporting requirements, is that right?
Yes,
And were you reporting in some fashion on a monthly basis?
yes. I always reported. I never missed a beat besides those months.
How did you do that?
I'm in person.
Did you ever report by phone?
No, but when I called her and she told me that they switched, my case back up her, she told me it would have been like that.
And is that when you contacted Agent Mills here?
Yes,
Was that by phone or in person?
by phone.
Did anyone ever tell you that that was not acceptable to report that way?
No.
I think that's all the questions I had.
Thank you. Any recross, Ms. Allen?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Any other witnesses for the defense?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Any for the people?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Remarks, Ms. Allen?
Your Honor, only to say that, based on the testimony we've heard, there was a bench warrant issued for this defendant on January 10th, 2020. So his claim that he saw his agent on January 17th, 2020, while he had a warrant out for his arrest, I find hard to believe, because that seems to go against, if there was a warrant for the specific issue of where he failing to report a change of residence, and he is in person at his agent's office, he would have been arrested on that bench warrant. And so he also admittedly did not have contact since that date with his agent until he contacted Agent Mills in May. So in essence, he has absconded from probation during that time. I also believe that had he, I guess in sum, Your Honor, the agent, is the defendant's responsibility to report changes to the agent. And what motive does the agent have to make up that defendant has alerted her that his address has changed, she's updated her file, and yet still get a bench warrant for his arrest, and then meet with him in person and yet not arrest him or take care of the bench warrant? Rather, what is more plausible is that this agent has been working with the defendant, went to his apartment, described in detail that the blinds were open, the apartment was empty, followed up at his mother's house where the agent would have learned the defendant was living there if he actually was, and just nipped this in the bud. But instead, if we believe the defendant's version here, this agent has continuously gone out of her way to make up situations that get the defendant in trouble, even though he concedes he has not had contact with her since January. So I believe, Your Honor, based on credibility of the witnesses in the situation which this court is to assess, I think that we've met the standard here that the defendant has changed his residence because it is on him. It's a failure to report his change of residence, and that's confirmed by the fact that his whereabouts were unknown after the agent's attempts to find him. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Austin?
Yes, Your Honor. Essentially, we have two diametrically opposed versions of events here. And I think Agent Mills is trying her best to relay the information she has, but she's not really the one with firsthand personal knowledge of any of this. She has to rely on whatever notes she has or what's been reported to her from some outside source. That would be the probation agent in Wayne County. Now, what Mr. Beckham says is that he did report a change of address to his agent, who he was reporting to up there in December, and that if someone was looking for him or his whereabouts were unknown, that was news to him, and if he had known that, he would have taken some type of steps to do something about it to turn himself in. And I think that it gives him credibility that he did just that with the court here and in his discussions with Agent Mills in the spring when he learned that his case had been transferred to here. So at the very least, Your Honor, I think we have two separate versions of events that are at least equally credible. And I think with that, Your Honor, they can't tip the scale. They can't show by preponderance of the evidence that he's violated his terms and conditions of probation here in this matter. And I would ask the court to issue a finding of not guilty on this violation.
Okay, thank you. Well, to believe Mr. Beckham's version of what happened here, one would have to believe that the agent in Detroit who was supervising him went to his apartment is lying about going to his apartment on January 3rd of this year, is lying about finding it vacant, the blinds open, no furniture, and the phone disconnected, is lying about the defendant's report in December, allegedly, that he had lost his job and he was going to move, communicated the information, the lies, to Ingham County, and had Ingham County get a bench warrant for his arrest when it was not justified. And furthermore, went through some charade then of trying to look for him on a bench warrant by going to his mother's house and finding him not there and lying about that as well. The most inconceivable part of this entire story is that the defendant would have reported to the agent in Wayne County a mere 7 days after I signed the bench warrant, and the agent would have just met with him and not told him, oh, I just got a warrant for your arrest because I went to your apartment and it looked like you weren't living there anymore, it was vacant. It's not just not plausible, it's just completely inconceivable that that could have happened. So I find more likely than not that is by a preponderance of the evidence that the defendant is in violation of probation, and I so find him to have violated probation. And can we proceed to sentencing? Everyone okay with that? Yeah?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Agent Mills, we're going to proceed to sentencing if you have a recommendation.
I do. This is kind of a rare situation. While he was on absconder status, Mr. Beckham actually went above and beyond to complete all the terms of his probation. He went through and completed an MRT class. I received that certificate from his mother via email. He also worked on paying off all his fines and costs to the court in full. So even though he was absconding and not reporting, he was still doing the things that he was court ordered to do. So in that sense, I would like him sentenced to 13 days jail with credit for 13 days served. And because his probation requirements are technically completed, I wouldn't be opposed for him being discharged.
All right, thank you. Mr. Austin?
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate and sharing the comments of Agent Mills. This particular violation aside, it sounds like Mr. Beckham continued to do and work on the things that he was supposed to do, and not only worked on them, but actually completed them and finished them, and did it successfully. Even though it appears he kind of took it upon himself to do a self-study probation. But nonetheless, he did do and completed what the court ordered and directed him to do. I do believe that the sanction for time served is appropriate, and I would ask the court to strongly consider releasing Mr. Beckham from probation successfully.
All right, thank you. Mr. Beckham, was there anything you wanted to say?
No.
All right, I will adopt the recommendation. I'm perfectly okay with it. 13 days in jail with credit for 13 days served, and the bench warrant is dismissed, and I'll sign a discharge from probation for Mr. Beckham. And if there's
Thank you, Your
nothing further,
Thank you.
then that will conclude our hearing.